So my name is Mike. I started Unity Charity. I'm the founder and now the executive director. Why a charity I chose? So a few reasons. One of them is you get to write tax receipts, and one of the benefits of that, you don't just get to write them and like throw them into the wind, obviously, but you get to write them when people make a donation to your cause. Also, it opens doors to new funding opportunities. If you look, most of the foundations and grants that are available, you either require charity status or you require like a CRA, like trustee. You need someone who would either take that burden for you, or you have to have that ability yourself. So you can get trusteed, or you have your own charity status. Another reason we chose charities is because you get independence. You are answering to a board, but they're your board, not another organization's board, which can become complicated if you don't have good relationships. If you're getting trusteed by this organization and their board doesn't like approve the things you're doing, you can kind of get like in a bunch of arguments that you can't win.
So my name is Leslie. I'm the program coordinator of the Phoenix Print Shop. The big thing for us when we first started thinking about a social enterprise was, hey, this one day can make money for us. We've sort of been in it for about 8, 9 years now, and we're sort of getting to the point where the commercial side is self-sufficient, where the work they're bringing in will pay for their costs. And we're looking at the next 3 years of the commercial side being a major donor for our training program. And our commercial team are really mentors to our participants too. I mean, Ed's been doing it for close to 20 years, so he knows just by the sound of one of the other presses if something's going wrong. So that's sort of the key is the connection between the two, the training and the commercial. They're not separate. We're connected and we work as a team. They know at the end that if they successfully complete the program, they have a good chance at getting a good job and getting on a career path, and that's what we're about.
My name is Alpha Biba, and I'm with Young Diplomats. Our model was and is an incorporated organization. We were really fortunate to plug into an amazing sort of network of like-minded organizations right at the beginning of our genesis. And one of those organizations was Schools Without Borders. And so at the time, we applied for our first grant through the Youth Challenge Fund, when it was in its first round, and we're fortunate enough to get that grant, and that report was instrumental in really helping us hit the ground running. And so we kind of scanned it. We said, you know what, there's enough opportunities where we can get funding just as an incorporated body. And through a trusteeship relationship that we entered with Schools Without Borders, we felt confident that that would sort of cover the bases. And for us, the trustee relationship was a positive one, and it was one that worked for us because it wasn't a traditional trustee relationship. And when we were ready to move out of that, we did, and we sort of wrapped up our trusteeship relationship with Schools Without Borders, I don't know, in a year?
Yeah, not even.
Not even a year ago. And we're still incorporated. If we had an opportunity to go back, we would still do everything the same way.
I'm the managing director of an organization called Schools Without Borders. We're what you would call an intermediary organization in a number of ways, and we have a youth organizing platform, or we are a youth organizing platform. How did we get to that place? Well, we are a registered charity. That's a big part of being a platform, is providing that charitable status and that registered charitable status to a number of the groups that we support. As we continue to evolve, we had more organizations, usually of people that had come through one of our programs saying, I want to work with you guys, I want to be in partnership, and keep all of our administrative body and finances and admin and all that stuff with Schools Without Borders, continue the work that I'm doing, and use you as what would be called the trustee. As an organization, we're more committed to having a personal relationship with all of the organizations. We support 15 different organizations now, and we'll provide supports when requested for all of the things I've mentioned, everything from communications and grant writing to finance and admin and HR and all that stuff.
My name is Andrea, and I'm the coordinator of the Grassroots Youth Collaborative. We are an unincorporated group. When you're incorporated, you can only spend a certain percentage of your sort of daily activities on advocacy. And we saw, being a network of youth-led organizers, there'd probably be a lot of advocacy going on. And that's something that we didn't want to give up for sort of an incorporation number. So that's one of the main reasons we chose never to incorporate GYC. One thing that sort of governs us is called the Terms of Reference. It's a document, and it talks about, becoming a member of GYC. So, for example, members of GYC have to have a certain number of young people in decision-making capacities in the whole, all the parts of the organization.
It can get very stressful, but in all seriousness, I'd say start with someone, first of all, figure out what you want to do and look at all the models, the benefits and the limitations, and figure out, you know what I mean, based on those limitations and those benefits, which category best fits you. You get a lawyer, that's what we did. We did all the documents, we got audited, we got insurance, we got a trustee in the meantime because we needed to run our programs, and we got through. We also made a lot of policies and bylaws and all sorts of fun stuff. So there's a lot of structure that needs to be there before you're a charity. We were doing it as we were becoming a charity. I suggest doing it before, so you relieve a bit of stress prior to. That's generally how we went about it.
Really take the time to figure out, is this something we can do? Is this something we want to do in terms of the social enterprise? Because it is a business, and you really need to have a business plan. And it's great to sort of focus in on, we want to have a training program, but there also needs to be somebody there with a business mind. It can't just be social. And also make sure that it fits with your mandate. Like, you're talking about, say if your organization is a youth-based organization, but you want to say your social enterprise maybe be to come up with a line of clothing. You want to make sure that who you buy the t-shirts from to do your clothing fits with your mandate. You don't want to be, supporting, say, a sweatshop in China that has children working for it, right? You want to make sure that it's ethical. That's a big thing. But another thing is be patient. I mean, it's a business. It's going to take a long time for it to grow. I mean, it's taken our print shop close to 8 years to sort of become self-sufficient on the commercial side, and we're looking at another 3 years before we can really become a major donor for the training program. So it's a long-term investment. And evaluate constantly. Be flexible. Is this working? What's not working? And make sure that in your logic model that you have strong evaluations there.
Basically, the structure of the document that you apply with to get incorporated is this information. It's who the board of directors are, where they live. You need to do a name search. I'm remembering some of these things just reading this document, but yeah, I remember that you need to do a name search. Make sure that there's no other incorporated body locally that has that name. There are fees along the way that you want to keep in mind, so make sure you have enough money to incur these fees. They're not crazy, but they exist. You need an overview of your organization. You need to know who you are, what you're trying to do. So do your sort of visioning process and whatever you need to do to get those core ideas down and your objectives. Do that before you embark upon this process, because it is a lot of paperwork. You don't want to have to be doing it again.
Specifically, choosing your board wisely, because they're ultimately going to be making some top-level decisions that will have implications to your own personal life. So make sure that they are supportive and understand where you're at and where the organization is going to be moving towards. Pro bono lawyers are the way to go for being registered and asking all the right questions and helping you to establish your mission and set of objectives and all that kind of stuff. What we did, what was really helpful, which we didn't realize we were doing as being, was have like a very broad mandate. So like our mandate on our marketing materials, organizational materials, is different than what is registered with the government. The government, our charitable objectives are to build and support learning centers in Canada and around the world. So that can really mean anything, right? So keep it broad, because organizations tend to evolve, and that has been applicable to all of the work that we've done and allowed us to include all of these different organizations that we work with, because they're creating learning centers or learning opportunities in many different ways.
How to on a non-status group. Not sure, guys. Yeah, don't know if it really fits, but I talked about the terms of reference and being a member-driven organization. So I think that was a good breakdown.
One of the biggest things, as you mentioned before, was cost. There's quite a large base cost, and I think you left out even a few things like a bookkeeper on top of that would have costed more. You said $6,000 as a baseline, but cost, I'd say, depending on where you're able to find free work, but 6 to 10, like it could get more expensive when you're becoming a charity. Speed of decision making. If you want to buy $1,000 worth of food and plates for a conference, you can't do that if you have a finance policy that says you need like a double signed check by your board of directors, and one of them lives in Aurelia or something, so they only come to bi-monthly board meetings. You know what I mean? So some of these things become very, very challenging. It's a nice word. Rules, government and board rules, bylaws are your board's rules. Government has all sorts of rules that whether you know about them or not, you're accountable to follow them. So I spent, as soon as we got charitable status, I didn't know any of the rules. So I spent all of my Christmas break reading the charity website, and they have about like 500 like PDFs about specific things. And like I skimmed, it was like university again. But it's not a good enough excuse. I wrote that. It's cool. You guys put this on a big page. I like it. I'll read this one out loud. Make sure you keep good records and follow all legal ethical procedures relevant to Canada. This is the real clincher, is not knowing is not a good enough excuse. So if you don't know, you could still get like dinged for it. That's a big thing. A lot of charities lose charitable status.
It's really kind of difficult because what is the priority, right? Like, are we a commercial print shop that has a training program, or are we a training program that operates a commercial print shop? Right. And the way that, in terms of the print shop, the way that the staff have all bought into it is that we are a training program that operates a commercial print shop. So our focus is what will help the training side of it, what helps the social side. So if our commercial side, buying, upgrading the digital printer, for example, spending and investing in that, it benefits the commercial side because they'll be able to do more work, they'll be able to do better quality. But they had an old, a still current printer that they were using that we now get for the training side. So that way, participants are learning on a more modern piece of equipment, right? So there's that sharing. So they're sort of balancing what is the priority. Like, for example, as I mentioned earlier, we're bullfrog powered. When we move into our new facility, it's going to cost us more money for that. And the question then becomes is, do we want to focus on the bullfrog and have that stamp so that way, when an organization comes to us for printing, they see, oh, it's bullfrog powered, they're environmentally responsible, we'll use them. Or do we want to use that money and put it back into the training program, for providing fresh fruit for participants, so that way they have healthy snacks while they're there, providing a paper for them to actually use the print on. So there is that. But another limitation is some people don't get the business side of things, right? Like, we'll have big clients come in and they hear homeless youth, they're like, whoa, what are you going to do to our printing, right? How are you going to maintain the quality? So we really sort of have to tease out that we've got a commercial team and a social side. The training program, our participants, they do their own projects, they're not connected. So it's kind of, to clients where we're pushing sort of the opposite of that synergy I was talking about. We're sort of, they're different. But also sometimes we get like other organizations will call us up and say, well, we're a charity, can you give us a better deal? And it's like, well, so are we. We kind of have to make money, and we are giving you, the best deal possible when you ask for our printing.
I think the main thing for us was, we have like part-time staff. We don't necessarily have, we don't have full-time staff. We're not necessarily, we don't have anyone who's fully taking responsibility all the time, every day, with our paperwork, for example. And so the main thing with incorporation, which I'm pretty sure is just multiplied when you're a charity, is you have to keep updating every year the government in terms of any changes that happen with your board, or anything, change of address, like all these slight things, they need to be constantly updated. And if you're not, and the documents that come are very confusing. So we had quite a few issues where we get a letter saying you haven't, you know, edited or changed this, and we would change it and get sent back to us and you haven't edited this, and so it can get pretty messy and pretty confusing. They don't really do a whole lot to try and make it easy for you. This is sort of the burden you take on when you incorporate or get any kind of legal status, is you just have to continue to be up to speed, and like Mike said, not knowing, there's no one who sympathizes with you, so keeping up to speed with the paperwork is a major limitation.
Okay.
Honoring each of the personalities and culture of the groups that we work with also comes with a price, in that, you know, some organizations are more organized than others, some need money at different times, some are running, you know, 2 annual festivals, and others are running weekly programs. So we have to be flexible on that side, but we also, you know, want to set up a set of standards that people can follow and respect, as far as, you know, respecting all the work that we have to do and trying to fit their schedules into that. So needs to be a bit of flexibility. One of our issues is that as we're continually evolving as an organization and setting up new structures, we need to constantly be briefing our staff and the organizations that we support on what the new structures are. So getting all 15 of those organizations around the table at the same time is almost impossible, including the programs that we run, the leaders of those programs. It's almost impossible to get them all together. So it takes a lot of personal time to brief people to make sure they understand our internal workings and, you know, why we need that receipt, or why we're asking for certain documents or you know, contracts or invoices or whatever it might be.
So around the limitations for trustee relationships, so when you're starting a project, you have timelines and you have deadlines to, you know, the funder wants to see that the money's been spent within a year, because it's not only you that are doing evaluations, the funder has to be responsible with money as well and meet their own timelines. So if you have a trustee that you're not in contact with a lot, or that is sort of removed from your organization, that you don't see or you don't talk to a lot or whatever, it could be a problem getting your money in time to actually complete and meet the project deadlines.
You do get more access, I think, to funding opportunities. Originally, right at the beginning, not so much. You kind of feel like you're not getting into more doors, but as you start getting a few of the funding, or some of the funding starts coming in, then other funders look at who's funding you, and when you have access to more people who have funding opportunities, and they see you've gotten this group, then they're more likely to jump on board if you submit good proposals. So like we originally went from getting Laidlaw 1 year, and then we got the Ontario Arts Council grant, and then in this past year we've gotten 7 more grants, which is crazy, totally insane. And we also started doing individual donations, so we'll make presentations at corporate offices. So when we get a corporate foundation on board, we'll make a presentation at their corporate office, so individuals make donations. So like, if you're strategic about it, I think the links that you can make with charitable status, it adds some legitimacy and to the, I guess, the more bureaucratic sources, and even the Canadian government and stuff, that's a whole other place. So I would argue that you can really leverage off the funding you get if you have that status.
One of the big benefits is that our clients become aware of what we're doing in terms of these initiatives as a whole. I mean, one of the things is we've been trying to get one of the major banks to do their printing with us. Actually, we do a bit of printing for all the banks. We're trying to get one specifically to sort of step up and give us more printing. So we've been having tours and tours of their suits come through, like the senior VPs. And one of the people, you know, one of her job was sort of to babysit the executives, because, you know, they might get lost. So she was like, you know, she'd come through the tour and she kept meeting some of the participants, and she got really caught up in what we're doing. So since then, she's become a mentor in our mentorship program. She's taken on youth who she meets with to talk about, you know, things, and sort of be a community support for this youth. Another big benefit is sort of the self-esteem of clients. We'll have a participant who's having a rough day on the press, and, you know, on the commercial side, you know, like, my job is basically to be the nice person. You know, I'm always kind of, you know, you can do it. And then we have our graphic instructor, and his job is, you know, that's not quite good enough. You know, like you can do this better. And then we have our commercial side who are just there, and they're sort of, you know, like every once in a while they'll come over and say, hey, you know, your business card looks great. And when that happens, the self-esteem of the youth sort of builds up, right? Because we have, you know, this person who's an expert, more or less, coming over and congratulating them. Those are kind of the big benefits are just getting word out there about what we're doing as an overall organization and seeing sort of the self-esteem of participants as they're there.
It's the balance between the legitimacy of being a legal entity and the freedom not to have the freedom of not being burdened with as much administrative work as you might have as a charity. And so for small group of young people wanting to do, you know, with objectives, you know, who want to access funding, who want to be able to create economic opportunities, you know, that have other lives, are students, are working part-time, are doing all the million other things you do as young people. It was a perfect balance for us.
It's an incredible privilege to work with all of these groups. Everybody's doing something really innovative in their communities. All of the knowledge that exists within all of our partners is incredible to access and to, you know, hear the stories coming out, and, you know, having a lot of these organizations like GYC and Young Dips in the same space. You know, people are collaborating and connecting. It's sort of happening on just a natural level. So it's been it's really incredible to be a part of that and to you know, hear some of the stories and to constantly be able to reconnect with all of the passion and the positive momentum and direction happening with all of these organizations, not just the isolation of your own thing like Schools Without Borders would be on its own. So it's really, really inspiring, but also very challenging. We're not, like, I don't have a management background, and nor do our core administrative staff have specific administrative training. So in our line of work, we'd be better fit to have that kind of training, but part of it is learning on the go, figuring it out, small baby steps, small victories, and you know, we're all getting a chance to build and learn together. So that's all part of it.
Being able to do advocacy, not being sort of governed by the government as to what activities you're taking on or whatever. The other thing is the governance structure, having our members, you know, govern what we do, and less administration and more time for hands-on work and